Alright.
That was nuts, dude. I typed all that, and then it disappeared, and the call ended.
Yeah.
I just typed it all again, or tried, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
And that's
okay. So, that's disappointing to hear because, and I'm suspicious of everybody at first. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to be after 9/11. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, after 9/11 happened, I was young and stupid, and I was like, fuck it, I want to go kill whoever, God and country, patriotism, America, all that horse shit. And then later, you almost do something drastic. I signed up for the draft. I wasn't really going to go sign up and go shoot nobody, but in case they needed some backup, I'd go fight your fucking war, right? So I signed up for the draft. Yeah, and then later you're like, what the fuck? 9/11 didn't happen the way they said it happened?
Yeah.
And after that, you get a little paranoid about what anybody tells you about any fucking thing.
I hate it when that happens. I know, and I'm not trying to, I don't even care if you believe me or not. I already know, and, don't believe my words. Just keep an open eye. But I do want to say this. People talk about who they are, what they know the most. So listen to shows, all of them, whatever, and more, and the ones that are always talking satanic ritual abuse, pedophile rings, blah, blah, blah. The people who were always talking about psychopaths, energy vampire, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
The people who were talking about gardening and cooking or meditation, well, blah, blah, blah. Right? That's how people talk about who and what they are.
Well, the Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh.
There you go.
I mean,
so,
it comes out.
Listen to their words.
But that's not to say that, like, for example, Alex Jones we don't even need to talk about because all you got to do is watch him and he's acting.
Gatekeeper, exactly.
Yeah, he's acting.
Now, here's a little crumbs, and 80% of it is true. 80% of what all the liars say is true.
It's true, yeah. So, and look, I'm not going to say that Alex Jones was paid out from the beginning. I don't know. All I know is that I can sense a very distinct difference in his tone and delivery from, say, 2013, or 2002 to now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a difference.
And there's definite military ties, and that's all I'll say about that. I think people, I don't want to tell people how to think or what's going on or believe my words. I want to help people ask the right questions and figure these things out on their own.
Right. So we don't even need to talk about him. Now, obviously, the next tier over is, and I don't care, I'm a huge fan of his, David Icke. Now, is that not to say that some of his shit I go, wait a second,
I'm not talking about his information. I'm talking about, like, real life. And do you know anything about Pamela Icke?
Very little. I know that they were married and they're divorced, I suppose.
And she had a head injury about the same time I did, and then all of a sudden she's this big demon honeypot CIA out to get him. And he's on the shows with Chris Geo and trying to set up his wife while she's suffering from all this shit when she supported him financially in every other way all of those years. And now her, me, some other blonde chick, that I guess have, I don't look like them, I don't think, but they have a theme with tall blonde women that they want everyone to believe are like the whore of Babylon or something like that. We're the Antichrist and we're out to get you and stop all of these big, powerful, smart people that are just trying to help you.
Right.
Yes.
So, what about the information? Because I'll tell you personally what made me identify with...
And the reason I don't listen is because of the energy, and I'm not going, again, my body is a temple, and I'm not going to feed it energies that put my stomach in knots, and when I know what's behind it. The things that I've heard and some things, yeah, it's real nice. And yes, there's reptiles. There's every species on the planet. The whole earth is like the first Star Wars in the 80s, the bar scene.
Right,
We're a bunch of crazy animal aliens from different places, all mixed into one. And think about this, people who want to think, oh, well, we're all the same. We're not the same, dude. Again, every other living being on the planet is not. How many different kinds of dogs or birds or rocks or plant? How many different species of dandelion are there? And we're supposed to believe we're exactly the same. We're not. Yes, there's reptiles. Are they all bad? No. If an alien landed on Earth right now and asked you, Daniel, tell me about these humans. Are they good or bad? We're both. So are reptiles, and so are everyone else.
And see, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, right? Huge.
Okay.
And so that means I look for this, like somebody actually said that was my religion the other day. I was a Trekkie before it was fucking cool, okay? I was a Trekkie during the first season of Deep Space Nine days when it was like you were totally fucking ostracized if you'd ever been to a Star Trek convention, okay? I'm pre-Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto Trekkie, all right? I'm hardcore, goddammit. So,
okay.
So I look for the deepness of it, the depth of the spiritual stuff, and Gene Roddenberry was way ahead of his time. Look, okay, and I'm going to go off on a tangent. You can't sit there and tell me that Gene Roddenberry came up with little handheld communicators, medical bed monitors, the transporters, Bluetooth, view screens, laptop computers, okay, that he just pulled that shit from a vacuum.
Exactly.
That now, I mean, when Next Generation was out and motherfuckers walk into the ready room with a pad in their hand, I remember laughing when I was a kid. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, have video conferencing. Gene Roddenberry's got a big fucking imagination. That shit ain't happening. And look at us now. Okay?
Look, my grandpa was a general in the Army, and I guarantee he was using computers in the 50s. Oh, guaranteed.
Absolutely. So,
and remember that one Twilight Zone episode, and the dude's holding a cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I mean, come on.
Yeah, so, no, these guys were tapping into some stuff, obviously. But
well, think about it this way. They had to have the things to film them. Those things are already in use. They just weren't out for public disposal, and that's why Hollywood is so closely associated with the media.
Mm-hmm.
Like Stu Siegel Productions, and where military people just happen to accidentally die on Camp Pendleton while they're filming these movies, and all that. Yeah, that's there's a reason.
Yeah. So Gene Roddenberry, he said, when they did the Next Generation and they wanted to put a Klingon on the bridge, so one of the executive producers or some stupid shit was protesting. They're like, the whole original series, the Klingons were all bad. You can't have a Klingon on the Enterprise now, And then Gene Roddenberry looked at the guy and he said, there's no such thing as an all-bad race. It doesn't exist. So, whenever you get into the quote-unquote alternative media talking about shit like reptilians, and interdimensional entities. And
which is all true.
It's true.
It's all true.
And whenever you come to this realization, I don't know about you, but when that reality first opened up for me, and I was like, holy shit, there is more than what I have been perceiving.
See, Daniel, when you asked me earlier, like, when I said that I saw them as the demons they were or whatever, and, like, I was brought into this world seeing that way from the start.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's all real. I mean, I'm not going to say every single thing he says is real because I don't know everything he says. Are there reptilians? Absolutely. Are there much more? Absolutely. Are they all here? No, they are interdimensional, and there's a million other things going on interdimensionally.
So do you believe that there's a conflict that's happening that we're supposed to be participating in?
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
Well,
so I can answer you properly.
I guess, okay, I'll take it to a Christian perspective or a biblical perspective. Kind of the mindset of a biblical Christian is that we human beings, if there is such a thing, are caught in the middle of a war between good and evil, Satan and God, demons and angels, and that we have to pick a side in this war, so that there's a conflict. So do you perceive that is what's happening around us?
Okay. Let me try to put this in words, my feelings. Yes and no, there are sides. Is it our job to pick a side? No, because we are who we are, and you can't pick a side. For example, a tick cannot will themselves into being a butterfly tomorrow. A vampire, a parasite, cannot just, say, I'm not going to be a parasite anymore. I found Jesus, right? So, is the dark and light going on? Yes, absolutely. Are we supposed to join a team and go to war? No, I don't believe that. I think that the only war that should be waged really is within ourselves. And once we realize that you can't force anybody into anything. You can't fuck for virginity. You can't bomb for peace. You can't kill for whatever all religious fanatics think they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
You can't. We have to heal ourselves. And I believe that everything we experience, and I'm talking within Mother Nature, the storms, the waves, the winds, the volcanoes, the tornado, the hurricanes, all of that. And I am not saying that there is no man-made influence such as HAARP, etc. But we are Mother Nature. And those are a reflection of our stuck, repressed, denied self and emotions. So I believe the way I look at school, or Earth, pretty much, is like a Freudian slip, is pretty much a school, right? And, you can get lost in these battles. And that's fine if that's what you really want to do. I wouldn't tell anybody not to do it. I have friends that do everything, and they'll make a post about Trump, I'll like it. Someone will make a post about Clinton, I'll like it, or, depending on what it is. And it's not because always that I like it, it's that I support what they support. Mm-hmm. Unconditionally. I love them, they're my friends, and if you want to believe a certain way, that's okay. Now, when it becomes invasive, Christie, you need to feel this way. Well, then, this, I really don't, and this is why, and, let's talk about it type thing. But, yeah, we need to learn to not go to war.
Right.
Okay? Let the people who are warring, let them war. That's fine. That's part of our earthly school. And this, Alex is right. Alex Jones, it is a prison planet. This is a slave planet. That is never going to change because we are in this school of duality. The more people that wake up, or the more you wake up, the more resistance you're going to get. It is just the way it is here on this plane at this time. So if we can get lost in the wars, or we can get lost in the healing and the self-growth and building more of what we want, move forward in what you want, not what you don't want, right?
Well, one time, okay, I'll tell you this, and might allegorize what you said. I was talking to, and I live in the Bible Belt, so chances are if I'm going to have a conversation with somebody, it's going to be a fundamentalist, right?
I spent a few years down there.
Yeah, so, and there are some people who listen to me, and they think that I'm picking on, quote-unquote Christians, and I'm like, no, I'm really not. It's just what I'm surrounded by, And so I run into it with that particular label more than, say, Hindus, But I got bones to pick with Hinduism, too.
Oh, yeah.
And Buddhism and Islam. I've got bones to pick with all of them, So whatever. But the conversation that was had was, We were sitting, if I recall, I was casually sitting in a good mood. Probably had just smoked a penner, and look, blue skies, man, blue skies. And we're just talking. And it was like, I used the word karma, you know, I just used the
Oh
word,
my goodness.
and then the person was like, well, man, what are you doing? I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, karma, what the heck, what's that about? And I said, well, karma. And then it dawned on me. I was like, oh, this person's a Christian. They don't get it. I said, look, in the Bible when it says you reap what you sow? Yeah. Well, do you know when it says do unto others as you would have them do unto you? And they said, yeah. I said, that's karma. Well, why do you got to say it that way? Why don't you say it like the Bible says it?
Some demonic word they
Yeah.
attacked for.
Yeah, they looked at they were pissed. They were, well, why are you saying it that way? And I thought for a second, and I looked at him, and it may have sounded snarky, but it was the truth. I said, it's less syllables.
That's great.
It's just, and honestly, that was the reason. It's practical. It's less syllables than to say you reap what you sow. I could say karma.
That's funny.
And
That's
there you go.
Like, we don't need to beat anyone up or anything. I mean, I think we should set boundaries if we are being invaded or pushed in that manner. But I'll tell you what, when I was renting a house in the Bible Belt, it was so cute. The people, they were grandparents, and then they were raising their granddaughter, who is very butch gay. And being in the Bible Belt and these sweet, perfect people, and then the mother on, all that was kind of a big thing. So, they had to become a little bit more accepting, but she was dealt with this time. She warned me, my parents, this next time they see you, they're going to ask you if you, what's the question they ask? If, something about if you found, not if you found Jesus, but what is it? Something about...
You got saved?
Yeah, something like that. Or have you found your Savior in Jesus Christ? Or, whatever. A question that every single person asks you in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
And so...
Do you know the risen Jesus? Nobody beats the Riz.
Like something. Nobody beats the Riz. Nobody beats the... Okay, so I was unpacking. She hit me up with that question, and I was already prepared. And so I have pictures of Buddha, I have pictures of Jesus, I have pictures of Merlin, I like them all. I think, there's Egyptian stuff, there's Tibetan shit, there's, whatever. People want to judge, but there's also Jesus. Jesus is cool. So when I was opening a box with my, spiritual stuff, and right when he asked, that's what it is, have you accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior? And I looked at him, and then I pulled out my Jesus picture, and I just held it up, and I said, I love Jesus.
Yeah.
And then went back to unpacking. It's like he didn't have to give me the whole conversation and argue or put me down or any of that. It was a fun, innocent way to just not even get in that debate with someone and give them an opportunity to judge me, even though they already did. I'm a little colorful and different and have front yard gardens and do things no one else does, but yeah.
So, oh my God. So I got to ask you this. How much of the downloaded content did you read? As far as those chapters go?
Not much, honestly, because I told you this week was a little interesting, and then I came out here to kind of get a little bit of rest, and then I've been working a little bit in the vineyard, so but tonight probably, or tomorrow when I get in bed and stuff, I'll probably start reading again.
All right, let me know when you do, because it kind of ties...
Dude, everything I read, I just have to say... like chills, truth bumps, God bumps, whatever you want to call them. You are not only a talented writer, you are a truthful writer, and you are either speaking through experience or tapping into something, and I appreciate your work, and I can't wait to read more.
Oh, man, thank you. Really, thank you a lot.
Thank you. And I don't know the answer to that, if you're speaking your truthful experience or if you're tapping in, and it doesn't even matter. All I know is that it's fucking brilliant, and thank you for sharing.
Man. Well, did you read the prologue? Is that what you read?
I honestly can't remember. You sent me several links. I remember one of them that I fell in love with. I definitely know that was number 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I read, it might, yeah, it might be the prologue. It was probably the beginning.
Uh-huh.
But I clicked on a couple, is there like 11 chapters or how many?
It's at 16, I think, right now.
Okay, so yeah, I'm obviously very behind, but I've clicked on a few. I just didn't get to read all of them, but the 7, for sure, I did all the way through twice. And the other ones were just, oh wow, that's cool. I'm going to save it and get back to it. So they're all bookmarked.
All right, cool. And I knew I really needed you to read that because, yeah, it's a little bit of all. It is actually what happened to me. It's basically it's my story, but it's done in a fiction type way. Like,
well, it's the only way you can tell truth. You got to call it science fiction, right, Trekkie?
Yeah. It's like my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but somewhere in there,
Nice.
you'll see. Like I said, I used to be a fundamentalist Baptist and everything, and there was a point in my life, which is kind of what the serial novel is going to cover, where after my father crossed over, I started, exploring spirituality, and I, took a 30-day vow of silence and did crazy shit like build a Zen garden, you know what I mean?
Really? You didn't speak for 30 days?
Yeah, completely was silent for 30 days, even to my wife at the time.
Okay, I'm going to write this down as a note here because, yeah, anyways, keep going.
Mm-hmm. And which is crazy because I'm a talker.
But, yeah, I hear that.
But I did that to suppress energy in one expressive area to see if it popped up in another. And it did. I never built anything with my hands in my life, and here I am building things. It was such a release to not have to react to people in your everyday life. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like whenever they say something snide or whatever, you have to learn how to communicate through facial expressions and gestures. And so I thought it was real therapeutic. But anyway, I digress. But that experience led to, like, the hero's journey. It opened up a completely different reality to me. And I no longer fear death because I know it's just a fucking illusion.
Yeah. It's weird how shit like that doesn't hurt when we're in it. And not until like the next day when we start thinking about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like death does not... Dude, I get pissed when people fucking wake me up. I like, please, it's so peaceful here. Leave me alone.
Yeah. But all of that led up to, me perceiving reality completely different because it's like the initiation of the pyramid. You experience death to figure out that death is an illusion, and you just step over into another timeline or dimension or whatever the fuck and pick up where you left off.
How long ago was that?
That was it's going to be 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, damn.
So.
Right on, warrior.
So what that resulted in was my sister, because I come from a family of 8, so that gets crazy. My sister, who is a fundamentalist Christian, has me committed into a psychiatric ward.
Oh, God.
Because I say things like reincarnation.
Oh, my God. Yep.
Yeah, because I have a Zen garden, because I have an altar.
My children for not celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, like by buying trees and lights and getting in debt and, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, to me, and it made me angry at Christianity for a long time because I was so persecuted by Christians, right? And it gets you back to, well, you know what? Just because that douchebag is acting that way in the name of Christ doesn't mean that I should hate Christians, Christ, or the book.
True.
So, but what I've found in spiritual circles or people like us is an animosity towards Christians. There's true Christians and then there's, jack Christians, man.
Yeah, I'm friends with a beautiful Catholic nun, and she knows that the Catholic Church is full of pedophiles. Like, she knows what's going on, but that was her calling, and she's in it for her reasons and sweet and beautiful. Like, You know, I mean, there's beautiful Christian mystics, one of my other good friends. There's all of them. I don't think we should hate any of them or fear what they believe because we all have different, this is all our own school. It's our own path.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to learn the same or, you know, we end up in the same place, but our journey is different. We should honor and respect one another's.
Yeah, it's only whenever somebody is trying to collide into your experience and force their shit on you.
Yeah.
You know, other than that, like I do the law of allowance, and I hate using cliche terms, but I just allow people. I'm not trying to convert a goddamn soul to anything. You know what I mean? I'm like chicken and rice. If you hear something that you like, you know, chicken or rice, pick it out, you know. But you know, I get frustrated with people who come at you as if they are an authority or they represent an authority that's higher than you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it puts a mindset in people that, oh, shit, if there's some higher authority than me and this guy's bringing me this message, then there's a go-between here, and I guess I better keep coming to the middleman. And, you know, so, like, I like watching, like we were talking about some of these guys on this list, I like watching them and listening. You know?
Yeah, you should.
And see what's there. But at the end of the day, like when I shut everything down and I'm in my own head, I'm the highest authority.
Exactly. Because it's your, and you know what? Even if every single word I'm saying is true to me, based on my experience, what I've learned works for me, and it's true for me. But
Right.
You are totally different. And just because what I do works for me doesn't mean it's for you, right? You know what works for you, and that is what you should trust on your path. We all should on our own path. It doesn't matter what it. Look, I had a dear friend, which we kind of broke up or parted ways recently, and you know we're kind of working on a friendship again, but he was so very, like if you ask him a question about how you feel about, like a conversation we're having, you're asking me how I feel about something, I ask you how you feel, and we share our truth from our experiences. Well, his answer was, well, Eckhart Tolle says, blah, blah. Like, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you how you feel about this particular, what are your preferences? Well, you know, Eckhart Tolle, again, like, it was like talking to a wall. And then if you had an actual feeling about something, then that was, you know, frowned upon because emotions are less than because Eckhart Tolle said so. And it's just, we need to live for ourselves, our heart, our soul path. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It's probably all true. Maybe none of it's true, but what is really true anyways? Right. It only matters what's true for you.
Right. And see, it's not
any of that influence us. I can't, like, you know, even when you go to a school counselor or something, you know, hey, I really like astronomy. Well, you know, based on this, and you know, I think you should take that. Well, you know, and then we listen to that, or psychics, or friends, or teachers, or parents, or pastors, or alternative, right? All of this. We trust other people's words over our own. And then when they have some letters after their name, or a book, or a stupid documentary that anybody can make on their phone nowadays, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like all of a sudden they're an authority and we're going to give our power away to this man? But wait, you just said you're enlightened. Well, why is this man's word more important or higher authority than your own inner voice? Explain me that, please.
Right. Now, see, and that brings up another pet peeve of mine. Now, and like you were using Eckhart Tolle as an example, that's not Eckhart Tolle's fault that people are doing that shit.
No, it's not.
Just like it's not Jesus' fault motherfuckers are bombing Israel, all right? It ain't his fucking fault. It ain't Muhammad's fault that some dudes are cutting off heads or not cutting off heads or going to a studio to cut off green screen heads. It ain't his fault. Now, that being said, there are some motherfuckers out there whose fault it is, you know. And
Yeah.
I know you saw that video that I put out, I think Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I don't get to watch as many videos as I want to either, and like not always right. You know, my only internet is my cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
except for when I get a break, like here this weekend. So.
Yeah. So, speaking of that particular character, okay, and normally I would never even would have bothered the energy or exerted much thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because just listening to that cat for just a few minutes, and me having the background that I do have with knowing about mind control, brainwashing, cult mentality, and how to condition somebody through repetition. You know, for example, you know, I testify to you to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the only true church on the face of the earth, and Joseph Smith is his true and living prophet. Shit like that.
And then all my neighbors, and yeah.
So I know how to pick up on when somebody's doing that shit. Okay?
Yeah.
Very, very quickly. So just a few minutes after listening to that cat, I was like, okay, I know what he's about, right? And me being a student of the Bible myself and listening to these quote unquote facts about what certain passages mean, don't mean, and you must read it this certain way in this certain translation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All that techno babble bullshit about scriptures in general, but the Bible in specific, you know, specifically. I knew what that shit was right off the bat. So, you know, I'm content just to never listen, right? But what fired me up about that particular individual is that I had the opportunity to meet and interact for a period of a few days with somebody who listened to every word this person said, this internet character said, and it came off to me as somebody in a goddamn cult.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
That when you saw them so-called interacting in everyday society, you found them to be little missionaries for this internet guy. And it's this guy, for all you fucking know, is sitting in his living room or in his back room, like all of us, you know, in his house coat, and because of a perception issue, you think he's an authority. And this particular person that I interacted with was in such a devastatingly depraved and bad place spiritually. And it was because they were allowing this internet character to be a go-between between them and their higher self, God, he, she, or it, like you said. You know? And that irritated the shit out of me, man. It really, because I don't like people who fuck with other people's heads to enslave them or make them feel inferior. You know? To me, that's like being an intellectual bully. You know? And I don't like seeing people who've had a rough life get bullied that way. You know what I mean?
I understand that. He is kind of an intellectual bully.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I told you before, he used to call on my show a lot, and I didn't mind him because he did, most of the time at least, pretend to be respectful. I appreciate people's differences and stuff, but the times where it did get disrespectful, then, you know, you have to cut it off. And so we did, but, you know, I enjoy hearing other people's perspectives. Although last time I talked to him and I was asking him, well, why do you feel this way? Did you have some experience that led you to this? And his answers are always like an intellectual bully. Well, it's his studies, and he knows the only one way to read this one book, and he's the only one that has this secret code to unlock this mystery because he's the only one smart enough. And, you know, I'm like, wait a minute, have you ever personally experienced any of these scenarios? And
yeah, right.
So, but I do appreciate he has a beautiful mind. You know?
Here he comes to save the day.
I mean, all of them do, really. I mean, even think of all of the names I wrote in chat, and
Yeah.
many more. They're talented, right? They're good talkers. They're sometimes even poetic. Some of them are good musicians, artists. I mean, they're all charismatic, and it's
It's cult of personality.
that's how they get people to follow them. And, it's funny because, I'm really about getting real. And like on Soul Journeys Radio, we talked about getting real to heal all the time. And I talk about how emotions correlate to disease and things, and my own personal experience healing path. I'm not throwing my piece of paper around or other doctors or books or this and that. I'm trying to share through my mistakes,
Right.
and I just, it's funny because other people will talk about the value of authenticity, but they're not being authentic. They're pretending to have all of the answers, to have never made a mistake. They're telling you, what you're doing wrong and how you should be doing things so you can be as great as them.
Yeah.
I just want to live in a world where people are in public the way they are behind closed doors. Like, no more masks. And these people that worship these self-proclaimed gurus, or these people that we have lifted up as these godlike characters in the alternative movement, they get you to devalue humanity. And then when people see real emotion, like myself, or even some of my videos or whatever, when I get real and, I'm either mad or I'm sad or, whatever, it's real. And then they want to demonize that as if, oh, well, that's not love and light, and, that can't be real, and you brought it all on yourself. And so really, these cult followers are causing a lot of damage within communities of people that are real or trying to get real and heal. And I see it all the time. People getting suicidal and told that, well, they're to blame, and, well, you really suck, and there's no difference between right and wrong, but you're wrong for not seeing that, and I can't explain it to you because clearly you're just too stupid, and you might as well go kill yourself. And that's the theme that the followers of these people have really turned into. They're not practicing what they preach. They're putting on these masks and repeating other people's words, and then using it to go beat up other well-meaning people.
Yeah.
Words, somebody else's words.
Yeah. Repeating, which is a repetition of something else. So, yeah, it's the truth.
Yes.
It's the truth.
Mm.
Which is funny. I'm watching a show. It's called Black Mirror, and there's an episode. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone for our age. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With the internet culture. But there's an episode where the currency is what your rating is on social media. And I think it goes to like a 5.0. So in your interactions with other human beings, like let's say me and you are talking, and then at the end of this conversation, I'm supposed to rate my interaction with you from a scale to 1 to 5, and then vice versa. And that's the currency. Okay? You can't live in a certain neighborhood unless your rating is like a 3.5. Or if you have a 4.7, you get any car on the lot, no down payment at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the entire society is in order to advance, you have to repress saying what you think.
Yes.
And be fucking fake. And the whole episode is about this chick who realizes that, she's on the brink of having good so-called social credit and bad so-called social credit. And she hits a point in her life to where I think we all have to hit, which is when you just look at everybody and everything and you say, fuck it. Fuck it, fuck you, fuck the horse that you came in on, fuck everything. And just see how much in the toilet you go.
Yep.
And I've had that experience in my life, where I've turned my back to everything, and I found out that there are passages in the Bible. Well, all of it's true. It's just your interpretation of truth. But the passage where it talks about the meek shall inherit the earth. You know, I'm very mindful when I walk down the street to listen to quote unquote homeless people or quote unquote mentally deficient people. People that is kind of like eyeball litter to society. I pay very close attention to those people and treat them like royalty because I know the truth. You know that angels don't show up and with trumpets and shit. That's not how angels operate.
Yeah, seriously. I had this epiphany on the streets last year where I just felt so blessed to be around all of these so-called crazy people that, you know, I realized, man, the wisdom on the streets cannot be found at home in your satin sheets. It's an all different path that people want to judge, and we're supposedly less than. And, you know, it really, I'll tell you what, even the beautiful, your neighbor, the church-going lady or whatever down the street, every single person judges a homeless person for the most part, 98%. And it's almost like a free pass for everyone to take out their suppressed anger and whatever they want to do, their inner bully, and abuse us. Let me tell you something. I've lived everywhere in this country. I've always, you know, I've traveled a lot. I've had big jobs, little jobs, everywhere in between. North, south, east, west, central, Bible Belt, you know, everywhere. And it wasn't until I was homeless that all of a sudden people think they don't have to pay me for my work. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, when you're homeless and you don't have an address, you don't have any help. You can't get help from anyone.
Right.
You know, and basically existing is a crime. It's this whole new world that I did my first homeless documentary 10 years ago, but I had a house on the hill, Daniel. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a genuine love and desire to help people. I started organized helping homeless people like 12 years old, you know, giving all of my Christmas gifts away and money and spending the money to go buy things and collecting things to go give to the people in Mexico. But so the gift in this is that now I can truly understand it and help even more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I certainly wasn't expecting to gain the wisdom that I have in the way I have, right? Right. Like you want it to, well, I'm just going to go to some ashram and, you know, or meditate in a cave and I'm going to come out knowing all this stuff. No, you know, you're going to go through hell. You're going to get tattered and torn and beat up by everybody and left for dead and treated like the worst of the worst of the worst. And it's like that one word, homelessness, takes away all human dignity on every level. So it's been an experience, but it really helps you see who people are. And, you know, when I did my show 10 years, you know, we don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
And I could have sold ads, but I didn't want to because that wasn't why I was doing it. I wanted to genuinely help people. Mm-hmm. And all of these people that I promoted other people's books, their sites, their group, their everything. Everyone turned their back on me, left me for dead. And all of these people, even though I was the one that either saved their life or taught them something that this and that, they forgot.
Oh, yeah.
They forgot that I was the one that started all those groups that they hijacked. They forgot that because I'm homeless. And now they have to, Christie, why don't you try some coconut oil? What?
Yeah. I'm the one that bought you your first jar, bitch.
Yeah, it's because I'm homeless. Even my friends of 35 years, when I became homeless, all of a sudden, I didn't know how to wash myself. I didn't know how to drive. I didn't have an education past 5th grade. I didn't know how to do anything for myself. I have never worked a day in my life. Literally, in an instant, people that knew me as long as 35 years.
Right. No, all right, earlier today, Now, some people call me crazy, but I'm kind of a live-in. I'm a hermit. Um, and so my idea of social interaction where I live is to go to Walmart and just walk around, you know, uh, and just look at people, talk
Your
to
idea of
people.
what?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it was cutting out a little bit.
but that's kind of like a meditation for me. I put on some earphones and I just like walk around Walmart, and
That's hilarious.
and I don't know, just interact with people, and so today I was doing that, and I said, let me go over here real quick. So I go down like the camping aisle because I was thinking about, all right, I'm going to talk to Christy later, and she lives in a tent or whatever. Let me go and look at this shit, right? And so I'm walking down the aisles because I'm a suburbanite. I grew up real poor, and managed to struggle my way to like suburbs, lower middle class or whatever. So I've never been camping. You know what I mean? I'm a writer. I live in my head. You know what I mean? I can't fix shit. If I know how to put gas in a car, that's it. But I don't fix shit. I'm a writer. I write shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't go camping. So I'm looking at this shit down the camping aisle, and I'm like, God damn. Christie's out there with this tent. I wouldn't know what the hell to do with this Bunsen burner looking thing over here.
Oh, man.
What the fuck is this propane stove? I don't know any of this shit.
I've been cooking with alcohol and tuna cans. I mean, I've really learned a lot about, everything.
But here's what killed me. I'm looking at the prices.
Oh, yeah.
On all this shit.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, I'm like, God damn, a lot of Americans like pay good money to just for like a weekend or so try out what Christie does every day.
And then they let the equipment sit in their garage, and people like me, I mean, I got to sell a lot of photos to, I mean, what did you think of my house? Did you like what I built?
Yeah, I did, and see, to me, it's cozy. I was talking to a friend was over here sharing, some cannabis with me, and I said I would so smoke out with this chick right there. That would be the coolest shit,
Oh man, it's so fun. I don't know if you saw any other videos, but I've showed like pretty much all the progress on the inside and the LED lights and stuff. It is pretty cozy and fun, but it gets cold.
It's like gypsy, man. It's like gypsy living. It's cool as shit. But
you have to be very meticulous though, living this way. It's not easy. I mean, you can't mess up. All batteries have to be charged at all times, whether it's your marine battery, your gardening battery, or your double A's. Mm-hmm. You have to have your generator, your gas cans full. You have to have your lanterns full. You have to have your stove full. You have to pack in and pack out ice, trash, water, there's a lot. And then, of course, I'm living in a rainforest. So, you have to be up on keeping moisture and condensation and mildew, and it's a full-time job. Like cooking one meal can be all day. Right. You have to chop wood, you have to, dig a hole for your crop.
Right.
Yeah, camping for a weekend is a lot different than living that way. But I'll tell you what, that structure, I mean, it's like 20 degrees now. We've had like 5 inches of ice, and then we just got 5 more inches of snow, and it's sturdy as can be.
What I thought was absolutely hilarious, and I was like, oh yeah, this chick, she's the same breed as me, was whenever you were talking about it, you were giving people a tour of it and the rebar and everything, and you said, okay, yeah, it'll hold up. And if a 120 wind tornado comes through, it's coming down. And then you just laughed and you said, but so is your house. And I said, she's got a point, But what I guess what was profound to me was that it was a matter of perception on quality of life when I walked down that aisle and I was looking at the prices, right? Yeah. It's a perception of, I heard Joe Rogan say, he had quoted somebody, okay? And the quote was, the best way to live your life is to pretend that you and your closest circle of friends or family actually run the world.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And regardless of what anybody thinks about Joe Rogan, that quote I had to stop and think about that. I was like, that's a good way to live.
Definitely.
And
Yeah, good advice.
and when you do start to live that way, it's fucking freaky how world events start to change. You know what I mean?
Like, you own this shit. It's your
Yes,
path.
exactly. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the fucking Illuminati. You know, whenever you get with a group of people that are in the same wavelength of you as you.
Yeah,
You know?
you're the boss. You're the god of your world.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So I was sitting there, and I have a friend, and she's got 2 little daughters, right? And you know, they're not doing good economically. That, you know, it's a broken divorce or relationship or what have you. So you know what I'm saying. The scenario that
I
I'm laying
raised
out.
children alone.
Yeah, single mom. You know, no job,
Yeah.
but she's making things. You know, she's working for her living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing the
Yeah.
best that she can and doing a really good job of it. Okay.
Yeah.
But where was I going to go with that? So she actually lives on a ranch, okay, and she tends to the horses that's on this ranch, okay.
Nice.
And basically, what the ranch is it's a nonprofit EGALA therapy for people with PTSD, emotional disorders, any type of disorder, kids with autism. They're called therapy horses. So these people with this neurological damage or what have you come out here, and the horses heal them.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
it is miraculous what these
Yeah.
horses do. They're like people whisperers, right?
Yeah.
And currently there's 14 horses on the site. And, you know, Christmas just happened, and, you know, 2 little girls at Christmas, you know, they're curious about what's under the tree. And when a single mom is trying to make ends meet, there's probably not going to be too awful much under the tree, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I know what that felt like when I was a kid, because we were dirt fucking poor. So I know what that's like. And so I was out there at the ranch with them, and we had just got finished feeding the horses, and it just something dawned on me, right? I'm dealing with a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old little girl, right? And they're in a certain place in life where we all choose to be, maybe. And I just had an epiphany, and it wasn't just about them, but it was about everybody. And I looked at them, and I knelt down, and I said, you know what, girls? Something just occurred to me. And they said, what's that, Daniel? And I said, you know, in all my life, I have never, ever met a little girl that did not at one time in her life ask for a pony for her birthday or for Christmas. And they said, really? I said, yeah, I have never met a little girl that didn't want a pony. And then I looked around, I said, you guys have 14. And their eyes just lit up, right? And so from one perspective, you're looking at 2 poor kids, you know, that a single mom who works at a ranch to make ends meet, you know, you're looking at that negative aspect. Or you could look at the reality of it, which is those 2 girls are richer than any little girl I've ever met.
Yeah, that perspective. In fact, in a lot of my recent videos, and even the ones thanking the gang stalkers and people who have harmed me, it's like, look where you got me. Like, don't feel sorry for me because I'm homeless and live in a tent. Like, look at where you brought me. I'm in this amazing place. I had my dream, right? Orchards, fruit trees, gardens, pigs, chickens, turkeys, llamas, goats, like things that somebody like me only could dream of and never would be able to afford, but I'm living there.
Right.
With fucking rainforest and mountain view and the ocean right there. Like,
yeah.
What the?
Yeah.
Those kids are very, very lucky to have that. That is so cool for them.
Yeah, it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
So, I know that you're a photographer, but where can people, like, if they're going to look for you on the internet and follow your stuff, where are they going to
go? Well, you mentioned my hashtag. I don't even know if we really talked about that, but that's one good way to find me everywhere. Is Aphrodite here. Also my Frozen Moments photography page on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Aphrodite here. I'm also Christie Aphrodite everywhere. So that's YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Instagram I have. Yeah, that's where most of my photos are. Um, yeah, or my old herb and healing website, mytrueessence.weebly.com. And that's pretty much all I'm using right now. There's a Homeless Radio Magic, but I'm not sure if what I'm gonna do with that just yet.
All right, and like when people are wanting to buy your photography, like on postcards and stuff, where do they need to go?
Well, so most people contact me either I'm Christie Aphrodite everywhere. So Christie Aphrodite at Gmail. I'm facebook.com/Christie Aphrodite. And then the other one. So see, I was on all these artist websites, but then they were selling my work, and for they would make $330 and I would make $20.
Right.
So we decided I could save them money and I could make more money by them going to me directly. So some people just buy the file and then go print it themselves. Mm-hmm. Like my cards and wood art and those projects, or either people just contact me online, or they'll look at, pictures that I post, or some people just want to support a homeless artist trying to make a better life and say, send me 50.
Yeah.
So, and whatever, they use them for whatever they do. I can sell prints and stuff, but it's easier and you save money if you go print it yourself. But whatever, if you want me to print it for you and you want to pay more money, that's fine too.
Right. Now, the hashtag, you want to explain that?
Oh, okay. So Fro, short for Aphrodite, died here. There was a really long time, and I'm not even really sure of what the truth is right now, but I felt that I had died. And I mean, I did die, but even after that, I still felt dead. And I just thought, okay, put me out of my misery. And I really had nothing. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't talk or walk. I had hardly any memory except, just pain, and trying to heal and get over all of these mysterious things happening to my body and my brain. And so this one picture is just incredible. But I didn't know I was a photographer, okay? So it was an incredible photo. And when I was in the hospital dying, my friend told me, Christie, get on Instagram, you'll thank me later. And I'm just like, I was bored as hell, and I had a phone, and I was coming to, and, had no one to talk to, or good food to eat, or anything to do. And I'm like, I have better things to do than look at booty models. Mm-hmm. And so then I just decided, okay, get on there, and I uploaded some of my pretty photos, and then I found out that they were like real photographers and, artists and stuff on there, and they liked my work. And, to me, I was just taking pictures because I love to, but I never thought I could be a photographer because I never thought that I could afford to go to school or have good equipment. And when I got out of the hospital, I realized that my childhood dream of being a photographer came true. So the death aspects that I re-experienced in each of those beautiful places where I was trying to find my content place to not be tortured and just, okay, let my brain just blow up all the way now. Can I just go? It was kind of a joke, because I was talking kind of dark. And really, I'm not against suicide or whatever. And I think if we really do have free will, everybody should be able to die the way they want. And, cancer and things like that are socially accepted ways of killing ourselves. But, I did talk about it a lot. And what's the point of living? Everything I do is fail. And I'm just here to live in this pain with this mysterious illness that nobody can help, blah, 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 poor me. So I turned it into a joke, and when we started painting on my car, I just wrote, fuck it, Fro died here. And it was kind of a joke just to send to my friend who was telling me to stop talking that way. I just wrote it. And then I just decided I'm going to make this my hashtag because this is where I died. And so I put a hashtag symbol on my van, and everybody writes on my van or paints on my van everywhere in the country. And so then they started using the hashtag and then posting their photos or their experiences with me and my magical hoopty. So yeah, I mean, there's multi-layer. I don't even know if we have enough time to get into all of it, but I did die, and I've died more than once. And I think if we're really living, we are dying, because living is about shedding the layers that prevent us from living and being who we are, right? And life, all aspects of it. I mean, oh, you have an anxiety disorder. Okay, well, what? You're not living, right? I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just throwing out examples and all of these tricks and things that we have to prevent us from living life. Mm-hmm. So my deaths, I became proud of them because then I realized through that I was able to find myself and truly live and be kind of reset, brought back to where I was supposed to be.
Yep.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, you better be careful where you talk about this shit. and see, after a while, it becomes, after you die so many times and commit suicide so many times, it's just like fucking Groundhog's Day.
It is.
With Bill Murray. You're like, you wake up, fucking Sonny and Cher's on the radio, and you're like, ah, shit.
It truly is. But truly, I literally leave a piece of myself everywhere I go. Mm-hmm. I have put my full heart and soul into everyone I've met, everywhere I do go. And honestly, I'm really, really blessed because I do have so many close friends and everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that truly love me and support me for who I am. But as part of my path, I can't be there with them. So I have to leave people I love all the time to follow my heart, which is heartbreaking. I love and shed those pieces of myself, the seeds and love that I plant with them. I still nurture as many of those friendships as regularly as I can, which are a lot. But I have experienced quite every time I move or get called or pushed or whatever somewhere else is another new life.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and since you read the beginning where I was talking about what if every time you have a dream you're dying, and whenever you wake up the next day you're being reborn, and why
every day?
Yeah, and why is it that we choose to keep playing the same character over and over and over again? Now, I have the fortunate experience of being a writer, so there was always a lot of characters in my head, and then post-death experience or realization, now I can access any of them anytime I want and assume that identity. You can call it dissociative disorder if you'd like, identity disorder, whatever, multiple personality. But when you're aware of it, is it really a disorder?
Daniel, you asked a question I really would love for you to expand upon if you can. I really want to share something with you, but crap. What you said? Why do we keep playing the same character, right? Or waking up and stuff, and also layered throughout my experiences and things that we've been talking about tonight. I have been very aware of other, I don't know what to call them, either dimensions, timelines, lives, etc. I have always remembered what people call past lives, although I don't know were they really past or are they going on now. I'm also aware of multiple lives that are regularly They're going up, for example, when we wake up every morning, we're here on this planet Earth in Georgia or Washington or whatever, right? But when I go to sleep, it picks up just like every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's, to be continued, and you pick up where you left off. Well, it's the same thing in the other places. It's the same places, the same things are way more peaceful and way different than here, but I'm still the same character. You know what I mean? Do you have anything to say about this craziness?
Oh shit. That is a good question. I believe in reincarnation. But I also believe in, I guess, what people call recurrence. Reincarnation and recurrence are two different things, and this is just crumptology, okay? I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. It's a Danielism. I'm not building a goddamn church. I'm not trying to convert anybody. This is just me, okay?
Okay.
If it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it just doesn't. So whatever, nobody's hurt. But I believe in reincarnation and reoccurrence. And when what reoccurrence is when the all, I guess God, Brahma, okay, the Most High, decides that it's bored being alone, then it creates an infinite amount of clay shells or jars or characters or video games to immerse itself into, and a prerequisite is forgetfulness, forgetting that it's the all. And all, that message you just sent me threw me off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I was not throw you off.
So essentially, all of us, like you and me, are essentially cells in the body of God, whatever God is. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Observing itself from different perspectives.
Yes.
All right? So, that being said, me and you are talking to ourselves. Right?
Hi, Christie.
Yeah, we're talking to ourselves, and ultimately, you're talking to yourself with everybody. Okay?
Yeah.
So every person that you meet, every person that you've ever read about in history is actually you. It's just you. You're looking at yourself. No matter where you look, okay? So I guess the opposite of what you're saying is that you play the same character when you go to these other planes or dimensions.
Yeah, like it's the same as this life, just somewhere else, but not the same. Different.
Slightly tweaked.
Different, yes.
Yeah.
I do different things, and it's different places.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your mind around. Things are the same, but they're not the same.
Yeah.
It's almost like the deja vu scene from The Matrix. You see a black cat pass by twice. You know that something's not the same.
Yeah.
But you can't quite put your finger on it.
It's like my lives here on this earth that, my past lives that I'm aware of. I'm basically always, this is what I've discovered, and I don't know, it could be different for you or everyone else, but for me, I'm always the same character, the same soul doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And the other people in my life are also the same. And getting back to the ticks will never be butterflies thing, and vice versa. It's always the same people in control. It's always the same people. And that's on these lives in the earthly plane. In these other dimensions, planets, experiences that I have that are just as real that I've been living my whole entire life, they're not the same as far as it's more evolved. There are no wars. We use the language of the heart. We live in harmony. It's not the test of Earth, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Where there's good and bad. It's not like that in these other places.
Yeah.
And
So
I taste and smell and touch and feel and all of those things that people say that you don't do in dreams and astral travels or all these other whatever naturally occurring experiences that happen.
right, and so you called your hoopty magical. So do you believe in magic? What's your definition of magic?
I am magic. Everything is magic. Think about this. I mean, I don't know, you guys have tornadoes out there sometimes or hurricanes, and a tornado whips through, they take out these big huge oak trees, and then that little pansy is still standing.
Yeah, yeah.
How the hell does that happen? How is it that in our bodies we have the exact same percentage of the exact same elements that are found in the earth, the same percentage of water, the same percentage of cobalt, the same percentage of copper, the same percentage of magnesium? How is it that we're living amongst these just different mixtures of gases, right? Water, air, oxygen, right? They're supposedly spinning out someplace, and all of these things flying in the air that aren't touching us, right? They're like, I don't know. I think it's kind of phenomenal. I mean, what would happen if HO, has another O, then all of a sudden it's H2O, and then what happens when you mix this chemical with that or gas, and then you have something else, and it's pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'll ever be able to understand it all, but the word I use is magic. When I use one drop of essential oil to heal an ailment, which an essential oil, if you're using real ones, are the soul, the life force of a plant, and it heals me, that's magic. When that tree that somebody chopped down is now a home or a table or a chair and heat for somebody, to me, that's magic.
Yeah.
Art, the shit that you write, that's magic. The shit that people paint and sculpt and build, the fact that I built that house in 24 hours for myself, a disabled middle-aged woman, that's fucking magic.
Yeah. See, I
So
liked it.
everything is magic. I don't have an intellectual definition.
If you did, you wouldn't know what magic meant.
Good point.
It's those who know. Those who don't, sorry.
That car, okay, the magical hoopty. How does it get me to the right places all the time and safely? And if you knew my car and what I have to do, it's like, it's magic. That's all I've got to say. Like driving with no gas and no gas station for 50 miles in Arizona,
Yeah.
or without a U-joint. And it still gets me to where I need to be, where I can get help, or the blowing up. I mean, really, it's magic. Or, then I drive through a flood and the serpentine gets built up, and then there just happens to be some 80-year-old dude to come help me, like, out of the blue. Or everything is magic.
Yeah. Have you ever read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho?
No.
Oh, you got to read The Alchemist. You got to read The Alchemist, because that's that book set me out. It's a short read too. It reads like a fairy tale, and I every now and then I like working at a bookstore because I just love being around books and literature. But I would have to make sure that book stayed in stock, because I threw it at people literally, like especially people who had just come from like the spiritual section, looking into tarot cards or yoga or whatever it was. It's like, oh no, first you got to read The Alchemist, and it talks about how to read or how to listen to the language of the universe.
Yes.
Which it calls it omens in the book, and it says that whenever a coincidence happens, most people not on the path, they just go, oh, that was a coincidence. But when you stop and you realize that is the universe weaving itself together for you, And coincidences happen more and more rapidly, and then it becomes called synchronicity, which becomes a bread trail to what the book says is your personal legend, or your higher self, or you in your best residual self-image, who you really want to be. And,
I feel that.
And so after I read the book, call it psychosomatic or whatever, I start noticing synchronicity everywhere. And it's led me on my path, and
Nice.
I always, people who are more metaphysical than they are physical, that we're evolving. We're not evolving in a Darwinian way. We're evolving in the true sense of the way,
Yeah.
Consciousness precedes genetics. Okay, that's just me.
I 100% agree.
I mean, that's what you got: hardware, software, and then whatever. And I'm going to get off on that tangent, but you got to pick up The Alchemist.
I will. I love to hear that things that I've found out through experience, other people share with me, or in books, or things like that. I do, Daniel, I want to add one more thing, and it's the most important thing I've discovered about real magic. And this is just my experience, but I believe that the greatest magic possible or attainable is, how do I say this? Okay. The greatest magic is to use no magic at all. And what I mean by that is, I'll just briefly say this, power of intention and all of this stuff. It's great and stuff, but there's more to it. And like, say you and I, Daniel, I intend to rape you, and you intend to not be raped. Well, who wins? So I just want people to be mindful. There's other influences. So when we're using intention, we can only manifest or create what we are capable of understanding at that present moment in time, that is solely based on our own limited experiences. The greatest magic is found when we can release our need for power or influence over anything, right? And allow life to flow as it is, sailing those waves. That is the greatest magic. Now, I know people, I've had them on my show, they're all into like spells and rituals and this, and that's cool, that's fine. That's great for them, and they're really good at it, and they, that's great. But their lives are still just as fucked up as everybody else, and let me use this for an example, like people doing spells and stuff, which, again, that all comes from a place of fear. Because if you were okay and accepting life as it really was, why would you feel you needed to use your limited perception to control something greater than you? So, okay, here's an example, Daniel. I met you, I don't know, some coffee shop, and you're so hot, and, I love you, and I want to marry you, whatever. You have a girlfriend, but I don't give a fuck, right? Because I know magic. I'm going to go read this book and set up this little altar, and I'm going to light a candle and cast this spell, and I'm going to make you fall in love with me. Does that not come from a place of selfishness and ego?
Absolutely.
Now, what does that do to your relationship? And what would that do to our relationship? Let's say that happened, and you left your girlfriend, and, well, really, what is that doing? I'm making you be somewhere you don't want to be. I'm making you hurt somebody else, and maybe children, or, all this other involved. But just the fact that you left your wife because of some magical spell for me, what would keep you from doing that again? So how much would I really love, trust, and respect you to begin with, and vice versa?
Right.
So the real magic is knowing, is allowing. It's allowing. That is what I have discovered. The greatest power is powerlessness. Surrender. Complete surrender. The need to exert our influence over anything, whether that's to change somebody or to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that coming from? And let's say you have the greatest intentions in the world, which I'm sure we all do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it is coming from a limited perspective. So whatever we can create, let's say with power of law of attraction or whatever, okay, we're only able to create what is in that little box at the time that we made those intentions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Magic is way greater than our feeble little limited minds can ever think of. Let the universe show you real magic. Get
Mm-hmm.
over your fear of losing control. That is the real magic.
And it's like, what's his face? Tyler Durden says, "It's once you've lost everything is when you're free to do anything."
There you go.
You know?
Yep.
Now, I know what you're talking about because I've run. I don't run in those circles, but because of my nature, I run into. I need to come up with a term for them. Little black magic fuckabouts who do that shit.
Geo and all of those, Sarian and Everard. Yep.
And I'm talking about stuff like that too, but in my personal life, it never fails that somebody who practices, what is it? What is the Mexican voodoo, Santeria?
Oh yeah, Santeria. Uh-huh.
Yeah, or Satanism, or something like that, where they're using Enochian magic or something. It never fails. Those type of people gravitate towards me, kind of like
because you have something they want, and that's real light and real creation. They have to cast spells to steal other people's energy to do what you do naturally.
Maybe so. I don't know, but I do know that a part of my role is to shut motherfuckers like that down.
Amen, brother. That's mine.
When I see somebody that's got I used to call them toddlers with AK-47s. This motherfucker saw the craft, and then maybe read a book or two, and so they start fucking around in the metaphysical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And causing all kinds of trouble. Now, I do, I guess, what some people would perceive to be craft, okay? But it's like, I got a friend who's a witch, and she said, look, man, there's no black and white magic. There's no left hand, right hand path. She goes, magic is like a knife. I could cut a piece of bread for you with it, or I could cut your throat with it. Okay?
Yeah, good point.
It's neutral, the force, so to speak. But my particular, and people who are non-initiated, I don't tell them I'm practicing shit. I just say I have obsessive compulsive disorder. What are you moving those candles around for? I have OCD. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Don't even fucking worry about it. Now somebody who maybe has, a glyph or something like that you could recognize, okay, they know a little bit of something. Maybe I'll open up and see how much they know,
Yeah.
Because it never fails. Whenever some person getting into the metaphysical, and this is my experience, a lot of people come to me to learn, okay? Yeah. And it always inevitably ends up being a mentor-pupil type relationship, right? And then the pupil always reaches a point where they try to overthrow the mentor.
Yes, every time.
Every time, just like fucking Star Wars with the Sith. I'm like, oh my God. So you show somebody who you think has a good heart, how to do a few things in the metaphysical. They see that it works, and you can see the gears going in their head. They're going, hey, wait a minute. If it works for, say, healing, or, getting a ride for somebody this way, maybe I could push this magic shit to a different level, and they get greedy. And then the power goes to their head, and then they start running around like a fucking kid with a gun.
Yeah.
And typically those types of people who are in that place find their way in my stratosphere and then go poof, very quickly. And
I hear that. I'm really blown away how similar our paths are, Daniel.
Well,
I do want to say this. You mentioned candles and stuff, and I did too. And I do want to say there's nothing wrong with any of that. I have many candles. I love them. I believe they're magic. I have and love my rocks,
Hmm.
my crystals, my feathers, my all of these things, and I believe they have their own magic. So I'm not knocking
Right.
like any of that at all.
I think
Yeah.
I think me and you are both in agreement on this. I mean, we haven't disagreed so far, but to unify our terminology, I think that what you people like you and me practice keeps the universal law of whatever you do in the metaphysical. For it to truly work, it cannot violate another's free will
Ever.
ever. Now, I know people who've done things like, cast love spells and spells or curses or hexes to violate another's
Oh
free
yeah.
will.
Make people sick.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it
Kill
works.
people.
And it
Yes.
works for a time. And then it builds up for a time. And then eventually the person that did that shit, the practitioner, always ends up reaping a fucking whirlwind. It never fails. So when people who don't understand what I do ask me, "Oh, do you practice black magic?" Hell no, it doesn't work. What's the point?
Let me ask you this though. Um, and okay, so we'll use the term Illuminati again,
All right.
and the people that we know are harming people purposefully all over the world, and this and that. We don't need to mention any names or group, whatever. We all know what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. How come they don't say their houses don't get flooded, they don't burn up in fires, they don't die of cancer, their children don't get killed, they're not born with, autoimmune disease? How come those things don't happen to the people who seem to be putting the most negativity out there? How come it seems that those things are reserved for the people that intend good?
Okay. So the shortest answer that I could possibly think of is I I believe. Well, I have to say I believe to others, but I know firsthand that this existence that we're currently in, whether we're dreaming or a dream within a dream within a dream, who the fuck knows? I think it was Plato or Socrates or somebody said that we're all just brains and vats anyway. You know,
Pretty much.
so you're constantly going to be waking up to higher levels of awareness. There's never an end to all that there is. I mean, so if you ever think that you hit a plateau in awareness or consciousness, no, dude. You're always going to be evolving in that way.
Don't you love the people that are, I had my awakening already. And they think that's all there is, and they already know everything, and
No.
it's so funny.
No.
I had my Kundalini awakening. I'm good.
Yeah.
I know it. I'm ascended.
Right. Well, to use a movie analogy, if you watch the last Matrix, and I believe that the Matrix trilogy, is probably one of the most brilliant philosophical fucking things written for our age. If people decoded it,
Yeah.
real to the core. But there's a scene in the third movie where Trinity and Neo are going to the Machine City, and all that, they woke up from the Matrix into a dingy, dilapidated techno fucking world ran by machines, and you look up above it, you can't even see the sun. But you've woken up into a higher realm of consciousness, And so for the three movies, that's kind of what you see is, yeah, these guys are awake. They're certainly more awake than those still stuck in the Matrix. So
I don't remember seeing the third one. I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, Revolutions, and so at the end of it, and I'm not going to ruin it for you, but at the end of it, there's a scene where Trinity and Neo have to take their fucking hover ship or whatever. It's called the Gnosis. That's the name of the ship, the Gnosis. Okay?
Well, you won't ruin it for me, because I forget everything anyways. Every day is a new day.
Way to be, man. But yeah,
51st date for me. Yeah.
So in the movie, they're, obviously the Wachowskis are, they're giving you some esoteric shit. I'm not one of these cats that's like, Hollywood's fucking evil. No, there's some good shit coming out of Hollywood that people need to fucking decode correctly, But anyway, So the Wachowskis are saying something about Trinity and Neo in the gnosis knowledge, the consciousness expanding, and they go up through the clouds, and for the first time in hundreds of years, or however long, two human beings see the sun, right? And I remember one philosopher talking about that scene, and they said that, they believed that they were awake, that they were unplugged. But what they discovered was that there is always another level. Always. You know what I mean?
Okay, so who's controlling it all?
Ultimately, you are, and me. I mean, so.
If that's true, then why would we get sent back to learn a lesson, so to speak, as all religions would have you believe? Who is making us come back to what? To learn a lesson, and why? I mean, if it's all us, then we should be able to, say, I unplug, right? I don't want to
Well, okay.
play this game right here, right now.
I'll start from. Let me try to take the angle from the Bible, okay? Because that's the first book that I learned, and that's the first maze of religion that I went through. So it's easier for me to break it down into that, all right? And the one thing that I get a lot of flack for is that the Bible, and I talk about, I'm not the first guy to find it, so I'm not like, hey, look what I found, you know what I mean? It's not some new shit that I'm coming up with. Maybe I say it in a different way, but the Bible is probably one of the biggest books on, one, reincarnation happening, and two, extraterrestrials and shit, okay? But you're not going to be able to tell a Christian, like a Baptist, a fundamentalist Baptist, that Jesus
No.
Jesus was screaming reincarnation, from the rooftops. All right? And to me, that barrier in the thinking of biblical Christians, that reincarnation is not true, or that somehow Jesus didn't teach it, is what keeps them locked in their little box. You know what I mean? So that being said, when you incorporate reincarnation into the teachings of Christ in the Bible, the book of Revelation, realizing that certain things are allegory of your own psychology, you know what I mean? Like the book of Revelation is a book about psychology. Your own internal psychology. For example, the 12 elders on one side and the 12 elders on the other side. That's your 24 ganglion nerves around the crane, the temple in your skull, in the Holy of Holies. It's all as above, so below, as within. So
That's a cool way to look at it. I think I'll read it again with that perspective instead of, I like that.
It is. It's a book about psychology, and the revelation, the apocalypse, means the unveiling of the Christ. Well, where did Christ say Christ was? Inside of each and every one of us.
Exactly.
Okay.
Wow, good point.
We are all reincarnations of who people call Jesus Christ. All of us are. We are all reincarnations of Buddha. We are all reincarnations of Krishna. All of us are. And so when we look at our own life, we start to see a cycle of, a miraculous type birth, supernatural type birth, right? A dwelling in normality, a call to an adventure, a dark night of the soul, then retrieving some secret knowledge or metaphysical knowledge and then returning back home to bring it to others. It's Joseph Campbell, right? It's in the Bible, it's in the Vedas, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, it's in all religions and in all stories, everywhere. You can't pick up a comic book like, say, Superman and not see the story of the New Testament. You can't.
Wow, really?
Because everything...
Yeah, explain it, because I forgot Superman, but I was trying to remember the other day.
Well, Superman, for one thing, he was created by two Orthodox Jewish guys who sat around and said, if the Messiah showed up in our day and age, what would he be like? And they said, well, he would be an alien, that's for sure. He'd be from a different fucking planet. That's what these two Jews said, right? They said, well, he would be, he would have vulnerabilities, it would be rare, have to be something from his home world, You know, he could shoot laser beams from his eyes, kind of like the Bible talks about, you know, Christ coming back with flames in his eyes and a sword from his mouth. He'd be impenetrable. You know, he could
Wow.
fly. Okay, so they basically they just pictured what the Messiah would be like if he appeared in the 50s, and you have Superman. You know, you go rent the movie Man of Steel, and every time it shows Superman, there's either a painting of Christ behind him, the sun itself, or some type of a cross form. All right, you know, but when we go to see a movie or when we read a book or listen to a song, what we actually, and this is me, we have to realize is that whatever input we're getting is a reflection of a part of our psyche. You know what I mean? And if you go back to when you were a teenager and you listened to certain bands or musicians and you had that feeling, oh my God, this song was written just for me, or I really identify with this, you know, this movie or this book, it's like it's about me. That's because in a way it is, you know.
Wow.
So, and when you look at trends like, you know, the 100th monkey syndrome, which may or may not be true, but the idea that it's out there means that there's some validity to it, the myth anyway, if it's a myth. But the power of a certain percentage of people getting together and praying for something or meditating, and then it actually affects shit in the physical world.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So
anyone can prove that. Cloud busting, I teach everybody that in like 5 minutes or less, and if one person can do that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
that is so, thank you for explaining it to me that way, and I'm almost thinking about reading the Bible again with that perspective and watching Superman too.
Oh yeah, it's all, you know, and the Bible says this. The Bible says that all Scripture is inspired by God. Okay, and when you ask, say, somebody who believes in the Bible, and when I say Bible, I mean what I'm talking about is 66 books that were approved by certain committees. Okay, I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
And rewritten, and you know.
Yeah. So 66 books that most people prefer. Okay, but when that book itself says that all Scripture is inspired, and then a group of people limit all Scripture being 66 books, something's wrong. No, it doesn't say 66 books that Constantine chose. It says all Scripture, which means anything written, scribbled, scripted. Okay? So if it's written or scripted, it's inspired. Why? What does inspire mean? God breathed. Well, if I pick up a Post-it note and I write a grocery list on it, that grocery list that came from a breath-filled human being, somebody inspired, is Scripture, right? And it's inspired of God, even though it's just a fucking grocery list. You know what I mean? Yeah. So everything is really a Bible. Everything is.
Well, that's what I say to people who, I mean, I'm not really, the way I look at the Bible, you know, just like you said, people have approved it, and it's been rewritten and copyrighted and all of that stuff. So, but if God really is everything,
right,
then, I mean, the newspaper is just as inspired by God than that. I mean, it's a book.
Exactly.
That was written by men. Like, right. Real God is bigger than one book.
Oh, absolutely.
In my perspective. But I get beat up for that a lot. Like, yeah, like even friends will delete me for not saying that, you know, the Bible is Jesus and it's the only true word, and, you know, by the way, we have to kill people for Israel, and it's like, okay, my God's just a little bit bigger than that. I'm
yeah.
But yeah, I get mad and then think I should be dead because, you know, if I'm not for that program. But, you know, then I'll ask them, how do you know they'll say, oh, it's prophecy. Look, everything's happening. It's like, well, how do you know it's not a script?
Yeah.
To go along with it.
Well, I'll tell you this. Okay. Let me think, and I might not put this in the podcast because it's actually a part of the serial novel, but because it happened. But when I first, do you got time for a little backstory?
Totally, and you know what? You should put it in there because then it might help. People will want to know more, and then they'll go buy the book.
Maybe, who knows? I don't know. But
Well,
okay.
life experiences.
Um. What got me on my path was the crossing over of my dad. All right. Which was February the 15th. Okay. And so I'm thinking about launching the podcast that day because I do things like that because I'm OCD. It has nothing to do with magic, you know. But you know, he passed in my arms, or with me giving him CPR. You know, essentially. If you're looking at it from a forensic point of view.
So are you a death angel too?
To what?
Are you a death angel too?
See,
I feel that way sometimes because everyone has to die in my arms, and everybody comes to me to die, not just people, but animals.
As a matter of fact, since you said that, I'm about to send you a picture.
No.
Okay. Hang on, let me find it real quick. We're not doing very good for radio, but who gives a shit, right?
Hey, whatever.
Yeah.
It's reality.
Yeah.
People don't have this long of attention span, but I wouldn't mind doing getting back out there again myself and doing podcasts about shorter ones, obviously, about specific topics.
Well, see, what I'm going to do with these is just cut them up and make them series. I don't give a shit. You know.
Oh, perfect.
I'm not going to go by any format. I can cut this up into 3 podcasts. I don't give a fuck. But you see that picture I just sent you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is kind of me. That's how I see myself. Because, yeah, you're right. Death Angel.
Huh.
And when this happened, after my father crossed over, whenever I went to go give him CPR, all of the air that was in his lungs just shot out of him, right? And filled me up like a balloon.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, I'm a Baptist, so we're taught that you can't communicate with the quote-unquote dead, all right?
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck is going on? That's
right. So I get his last breath into me, and I hear my father in a young man's voice say, "Don't panic, son. Everything is going to be okay." Okay?
That gave me chills.
And a complete calm came over me, right? And I did what I had to do. And, afterwards, when I had time to stop and think about it after they declared my father, quote unquote dead, I was alone, and I remember thinking, wait a goddamn minute, I know that I heard my father. I know that. And that right there is proof positive that the shit they've been telling me from behind the pulpit ain't so. It just ain't so. Yep. That you can communicate. And so that is what set me off onto my journey, because right. I wanted to find a way to stay in constant communication with my dad. And
I'm not crazy anymore, huh?
Right. No. Yeah, right.
I'm crazy talking to dead people till it happens to them.
Right, yeah, and then they tap you on the shoulder. So I was willing to read any fucking book. I was going to say any mantra, because me and my dad and my mom are best fucking friends.
Mm-hmm.
Those, my parents are my titans, And so me not having communication with my dad was just ungoddamn acceptable to me. Not being able to hug him or smell him and shit like that, okay, I could deal with that. But not being able to chat with him when I fucking need to, screw you. I'm going to cross the universe to find a way, And that was me. Now, you're going to get your family looking at you like you're insane, which they did. What's he doing? All that stuff. But over time, my mind expanded. And I'll never forget it, Christie. I was working as an auditor, right? And listening to talk radio on the way to work, and listening to a podcast filled with music, or an MP3 player filled with music on shuffle, because you just heard them in one particular order way too much, so you got to hit shuffle to pretend there's variety.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there and I'm doing my job and I'm listening to some music. It's on shuffle, and I stopped and I said, "God, whatever you are, You know, I know that I'm not supposed to, by the rules, ask to talk to my dad or pray to the dead or anything like that. But,
Aww,
but,
yeah, I've had those conversations too.
yeah.
That's cute.
So I said, but if you could do me a favor real quick, if you could ask my dad if he's cool, you know, and then let me know, give me some type of a sign, right? And the second that I said amen, I shit you not, a song came on my MP3 player that was by Florence and the Machine called Between Two Lungs. All right? And, you know, one, just the title alone was profound, but two, the actual lyrics was like Florence was looking at me trying to save my dad's life with CPR through a different mirror and wrote a goddamn song about it.
Whoa, really?
So this shit blew my mind completely.
I have to hear the song now.
It's brilliant. And then at that point I knew, I said, wait a second, there's got to be a loophole. Because even Christians will say that you're not supposed to pray to the dead, right? So I said, okay, there's another passage that says those who are in Christ can never die. So therefore my dad is not dead. Therefore it's not a sin to pray to my dad.
There is no death.
Yeah, there's no death. And once that in my mind was unlocked, I talk to my daddy every fucking day, okay? And I know he's here with me. And I know that he affects the physical world around me at my behest because I'm his son, you know? And it's comforting as shit to have that access to the other side. And it's beautiful, you know what I mean? So I was just experiencing this type of thing. And I happened to meet a gentleman who, let's just say, is not from this plane of existence at all, that could sense or could see that I had a sight beyond others. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The same type of sight that you have. He realized that right away.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess took me under his wing or wanted to instruct me.
Oh?
And I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but he was the first person who I ever witnessed their eyes shift. Okay? From a human-type pupil to something else. All right?
Nice.
And then all of the shit that David Icke, you know, I'd listen to David Icke say, now I'm looking at it, and I'm going, holy shit. Total paradigm shift, right?
That's funny.
Total paradigm shift. What you mean? I could talk to fucking quote unquote dead people, and now I could see reptilian motherfuckers. You know what the fuck? You talk about going from a 9-to-5 suburban guy, married, you know, at a very young age, living the suburban life, and now all of a sudden I'm Doctor Strange. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this one of the first things this guy teaches me is he says, one, whatever happens in the body happens in the world. Okay? Whatever happens in the body will happen to the world. And he made sure that I remembered these things verbatim. And he said, he pulled me to the back and he pulled out a Bible. Now, it was the New World Translation, but that's beyond it. He wasn't really a Jehovah's Witness, okay? And he asked me, he said, Daniel, can I ask you a question? I said, what's that? He said, do you know how Jesus could tell the future? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, tell me how Jesus knew how to tell the future. And I said, because he read the book of Daniel. And then he acted it out like a script. Because there's nothing new under the sun. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So,
I like it.
it's the truth. It's the cycle of the sun. So what I tell people to do who want to be clairvoyant, I'm not trying to teach a seminar. You can tell me to shut up whenever. I tend to be long-winded, so don't be offended. Yeah.
Just like me.
Yeah. So, but I like taking people around the lake, you know. But so what I tell people to do, I said, you don't have to really read the Bible to be in touch with your higher self. What are you naturally drawn to? Now, me, like if you were to look around my office, I got a Spider-Man poster, Matrix poster, Legend of Zelda, X-Men, video game posters, got pictures of my parents, Star Trek, Batman, more Star Trek, Iron Man, a TV, some toys. Excuse me, I'm a grown man, so they're collectibles, not fucking toys. And, my altar with pictures of my parents and candles, right? So you can kind of see what I'm naturally drawn towards. Superheroes, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I've never read the Bible, and God, whatever God is, knows I'm never going to read the fucking Bible, but knows that when the next Marvel movie comes out, my ass will be there. Okay? God knows that. So in order for me to reach my highest self, God knows that it's going to have to speak to me through, say, Thor. Right?
For sure.
And we'll do it. So what I tell people is, okay, whatever you're drawn to, let's say in this instance it is a comic book movie. All right, let's say it's X-Men. And whoever I'm talking to, I'll say, if you had to pick one of these characters, and don't hesitate, go with your first gut instinct, your first thing off your lips, which character would you be in this story? Once a person can identify with a character in any story, they can tell the future. All they have to do from that point is identify the people in their lives with the other characters, watch the fucking movie, they'll know what happened, what's happening, and what's going to happen.
Dude, that is